Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Gulfstream Park here on Saturday. It's the 1st of April 2023. It's Florida Derby Day, and I'm going to look at the Florida Derby and all the other stakes races on the program from Gulfstream. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean around the world. There are a few days in the horse racing calendar, my personal calendar, that I just circle at the beginning of the year. One of them, of course, the Triple Crown races, the Breeders' Cup, the Travers, the big days. And then you have Florida Derby Day every year. That's one of the days that I always look forward to because you always have great racing here at Gulfstream for every division, it seems. And, it's just an exciting day of racing. So it's in the top 5 for me of racing in the States for the season. So we're going to look at the stakes races 3, 5, 7, and then 8 through 14. So we have a smorgasbord of races to get to. Let's get to it right now. Starting off with the third race, we're heading to the turf. It's the Cutler Bay Stakes. It's going for a $100,000 purse. Races for 3-year-olds here. We have a field here of, 9 horses going 1,500 meters or 7.5 furlongs on the Gulfstream Park turf course. The rails are down. They'll be running in the 0-foot section of the course, which is the inner portion of the turf course. There are 2 rail settings today, the 0-foot and the 56-foot, so the inner and outer turf course. So this is on the inner portion. My top selection here, I'm going to take the 5-horse Spy Novell. I'm going to go 5-8-3-6 in the superfecta. 5-8-3-6 super, top selection of 5-horse Spy Novell. This 3-year-old gelding by Boisterous here. Safi Joseph Jr. trained as Garzias gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came 23rd of February here at Gulfstream. 1 mile on Optional 35 claimer, and the horse won by 2 1/4 lengths that day, and he had a dream position. He stalked all the way around the race course. He had a little bumping early on, but when he had the turn of foot, he took off clear. That was a very good run. He is stepping up in class here today, but I think he has to forwardly pace to win, and I think he has to, the speed and buyers to win here today. 2 back on New Year's Day here at Gulfstream. Mile 16th and a maiden claiming 25,000. Winning by 4 lengths. Again, from his tracking position, he was a little bit wide, but when he had the turn of foot, he really took off nicely. He was claimed from the Cassie barn to the Joseph barn that day, but it was still a very good run there. And then prior to that, a state bred main special way to Park, 6 furlongs in the mud. He finished 3rd by 4 lengths that day, and, he just never really was comfortable. His dirt races are a little subpar. Before that, they ran him at the Meadowlands on the turf, a mile 16th and main 25,000, and he finished 2nd by a nose. He got caught late, but he ran his heart out. He's training very well coming into this race. I think he has a strong chance of winning, so I'm going to use him. It wouldn't surprise me if the 8-horse King's Fortune gets the job done. They tried running him on the turf here on the 4th of February, but it was rained off. Mile 70 off turf on the Tapeta in a main special weight. He won by 1.5 lengths, and he came from nowhere. He was stupidly wide. He was drifting that day, but I thought it was a good race. He is bred to get some turf pedigree. He should be forwardly paced, I think, today. He's training well. Another horse at 4-1 in the early pick 4. We'll use him there. But to recap my selection for the third from Gulfstream, it's the Cutler Bay. Let's take the 5-horse Spy Novell. Give kudos to the 8-horse King's Fortune. 5-8-3-6 super. Let's go 5-8 in your multi-race. Head over to race number 5 now from Gulfstream Park. It is the Pan American Stakes. It's going for it's a grade 2 event going for a purse of $200,000. Races for 4-year-olds then upwards. We have a field of 8 horses going 400 meters or a 1.5 miles on the turf course. Again, the rails are at 0 feet for this race, so it's the inner portion of the turf course. My top selection, I'm going to go to the rail to the 1-horse Wicked Fast. 1-3-2-4 for me in the superfecta. 1-3-2-4 super. Top selection, 1-horse Wicked Fast. This 4-year-old gelding by Tourist. Mike Maker trained at Garzias gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the grade 2 McDermott here at Gulfstream. Mile 3, it's on the 4th of March. And the horse finished 5th by 4 lengths. And with these very narrow turf courses at Gulfstream, especially the inner portion when the rails are up on the, when they're at the 0 feet and 56 feet settings, you need to have a good position on this course. This horse didn't have it. He was breaking from post position 11 to 12 and didn't have the best beginnings. He got bumped in at the break. He was very wide throughout. He had a little bit of a turn of foot, but from that wide poster, he just couldn't keep up. He's going to get a good poster finally today. He should be forwardly paced, and I think he can get the win today. 2 back in the McKnight Handicap here at Gulfstream, 1.5 miles on the 20th of January. He finished 3rd by 2 lengths. Again, drawn 11-11. Horrible poster. He sat back early after not the best beginnings. He was closing up well, but he needs something more late. He came home with a respectable 92 buyer there. And then prior to that, in the Alan Jerkins here at Gulfstream, mile 5/8 off the turf on the Tapeta on the 17th of December. He finished 2nd by 1/4 lengths. He had a low poster. It was a little bit wide, but he was gaining late. If the race was 2 miles like it was supposed to be, he probably would have won that day. And then prior to that, routing at Aqueduct, mile 16th, and Geoponte on the lawn, he finished 6 by 5 lengths. Again, not the best beginnings, but he was really gaining well late. He likes the longer trips. He's run well on this turf course with stupidly wide post draws. He's drawn low today. I think he has a strong chance. Wouldn't surprise me if the 3-horse Masterpiece gets a good race and wins for Safi Joseph and Jose Ortiz. Most recently here in the McDermott on the 4th of March over the mile 3/8. The horse finished third by 1.5 lengths that day. He was a little bit wide that day, but he was really gaining that day. Not the world's worst race for him. He is getting blinkers on to concentrate him. Before then, the Pegasus World Cup turf over the mile and 1/8 on the turf course. He finished 7th by 3 lengths there. A little bit wide. He moved a little bit late, but everybody seemed like they were moving a little bit late. He still needs something, but he ran his heart out there. Before that, he was based in Southern California. He ran 8th in the Brewers Cup turf, not keeping up there. Thought very overbet at 26-1. Decent place in the Del Mar handicap, and he won the Eddie Reed very nicely, coming home with the 99 buyer. Coming here today, wouldn't surprise me if he gets the job done. A definite use in the pick 4 to end it off, the early pick 4. But to recount my selection for the 5th from Gulfstream now, it's the grade 2, $200,000 Pan American. Let's take the 1-horse Wicked Fast as a top selection. Give kudos to the 3-horse Masterpiece. 1-3-2-4 Super. 1-3 in your multi-race. The 7th race now from Gulfstream, it is the Ghostzapper Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a $150,000 purse. Races for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 7 horses going 1,700 meters or a mile and 1/16 on the Gulfstream Park main track. My top selection here, I'm going to go with the number 5 horse, First Captain. Let's go 5-3-4-7 in the superfecta. 5-3-4-7 super. Top selection of 5-horse First Captain. This 5-year-old horse by Curlin. Shug McGahee trains. Luis Saez gets the mount. Horse hasn't been seen since late October of 2022. That came at Keeneland. A mile and 1/8 in the Fayette Stakes. And the horse finished 5th by 19 3/4 lengths that day. And as the favorite, he was just wide and did not show up. I don't know, did he bleed that day? It was a very disappointing run. He's freshening here, coming back to Gulfstream where he ran very well last season and a little lesser quality spot. I think he could get the job done, but that last race was very weird. 2 back in the Jockey Club Gold Cup at Saratoga, mile and 1/4 on 3rd of September. He finished 3rd by 3 3/4 lengths that day, and he sat back early. He had a decent turn of foot, but Olympiad really freaked that day. And but this horse came home with a 100 buyer, not the world's worst race from there. And then in early July at Belmont, a mile and 1/4 in the Suburban, he finished 2nd by a nose behind Dynamic One. He was with them early on, dueling. Dynamic One came back on this horse, but this horse, he put on a strong performance there. And then prior to that, in the Pimlico Special, Pimlico, mile 3/16, 20th of May, he won by a head, coming from mid-pack, a little bit wide, but he took off clear. Very, very good run. Coming here, I would like to see him a little bit closer. It seems like there's going to be a little bit of lack of speed, so if he sits closer going mile 16th, I think he could show up. I'm going to use him here. It wouldn't surprise me if the 3-horse simplification gets the job done for Antonio Sano and Joel Rosario. Most recently, in the Gulfstream Park Handicap Mile, he finished 3rd by 3 1/4 lengths that day. He was a little bit wide, but he was gaining that day. It was an improvement off the race before, which was the Pegasus, where he finished 10th by 17.5 lengths and just had nothing, absolutely nothing. Before that, decent 3rd in Harlan's Holiday. He hasn't won since the Fountain of Youth of 2022, but if you look at the horses he's been facing the last few starts, it's been quite tough horses. Not nearly as tough today. I would like to see him sit a little closer. If he does that in a race that has a lack of speed, I think that could really show off for him. 5-2. We'll use him here in the pick 4 that begins with this race. But to recount my selections now for the 7th from Gulfstream, it is the grade 3 Ghostzapper. We're going to take as a top selection the 5-horse First Captain. Give kudos to the 3-horse simplification. 5-3-4-7 super. Let's go 5-3 in the multis. Let's head over to race number 8 now from Gulfstream. The 8th race from Gulfstream, it is the Orchid Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a $150,000 purse, race for fillies, mares, 4-year-olds, and upwards. We have a field here of 8 horses going 2,400 meters or a mile and 1/2 on the Gulfstream Park turf course. My top selection here in the Orchid, I'm going to go with the number 6 horse, Personal Best. Let's go 6-5-2-3 in the superfecta. 6-5-2-3 super. Top selection 6-horse Personal Best. 4-year-old filly by Tappet. Shug McGahee trains. Ira Ortiz Jr. gets the mount. Horse's most recent outing came in the La Proviante Stakes here at Gulfstream. Mile and 1/2 on the 20th of January, and it was a success for this horse, winning by a neck from a tracking position. This horse was a little bit wide, but when she had the lead at the top of the lane, she held on to a very good victory, an all-around great race for her. Coming home with a 90 buyer, stepping up with a little bit more class today, could be more forwardly paced, which I don't think is half bad on this turf course. I think the horse could get the trip to win. 2 back, the horse ran on the 26th of December here at Gulfstream, mile 16th off the turf on the Tapeta and the Tropical Park Oaks. And the horse finished third by 3 1/4 lengths that day, or excuse me, 1 3/4 lengths, and she just sat back early from a little bit wide post draw. She was drifting that day. I don't know if she liked the Tapeta, but she ran okay, but she's had better races. And then before that, 18th of November at Aqueduct, mile 3/8 on the inner turf course, an allowance race, 90,000. Won by 4 3/4 lengths. She stalked that day. She got the lead again. She was drifting that day, but she still got the job done going away with an 89 buyer. And then a Keelan, about a mile and eighth allowance race, finished second by a length. First time facing winners. She was just closing up a little bit too late. I do think she would have been benefiting from a mile 3/16 to a mile and a quarter kind of race there. Mile 3/16 since it would have been Keelan. But coming here today off some decent runs, back to the longer trip, racing well, training well, pacing. I'm going to give this horse a shot. Don't throw out the 5-horse Amazing Grace. This 5-year-old mare by Perfectionist. Christophe Clement trains. Joel Rosario gets the mount. Joel Rosario, not him. Christophe Clement is looking for his 8th win or 9th win in this race. In the late 90s to the early 2000s, he's basically won this race like 4 or 5 years in a row. He would have made it like 6 years in a row, but I think one of the years when they took this race off the turf, he lost and then came back the year later to win it. And to the point of when I was a kid, my grandfather, he used to record all the old here in New York. We used to have Naira used to call the Monday Tuesday replay show would be Thoroughbred Action for all the stakes races around the country, and he used to record it religiously for many years. And one of the VHSs I found years ago was of the 2001 Thoroughbred Actions he had, and one of the episodes was of course Gulfstream in March, and he had one of the Orchid Stakes where Christophe Clement won with the horse Innuendo, who I always remember it. I don't think the horse did anything other than that victory, but when I think of this race, I always think of that VHS my grandfather had. But back to that's way off subject. We're gonna go back to the Amazing Grace, the 5-horse. This horse is coming in from Europe. Most recently, a horse ran at Cologne, a mile and a half in the Group 1 Prez van Europe, and he finished third by 3 lengths that day, and he just couldn't keep up late. Rebels Romance went on to win the Brews Cup Turf, so decent horse that day. This horse just wasn't running to a perfect trip, but she ran a good race against the boys, but she just wasn't running the perfect trip. 2 back at bottom, mile and a half in the Group 2 Ghostzapper Stakes Stakes. Pardon my German's horrible. No, my French is better. But the horse won by 1 1/4 lengths that day, and from a tracking trip, this horse really took off clear. Very good run for this horse there. And then at Munich, a mile and a quarter in the Group 1 Proce of Bayernchen Stakes. The horse finished second by 3/4 length that day, and he just, kind of hit the wall late. She just couldn't go down without the fight. Could go with the good turn of foot. Her German races were very well run because it was on fast ground. Her French races were horrible because she hates soft ground. Her wheels are spinning. She was never really comfortable in those soft ground races. When she sees fast ground, she really puts on a better race. They did have some rain earlier in the week at Gulfstream, but the turf courses here will dry out a little quickly. They needed rain. If you look at the Gulfstream Park turf course, it's basically painted dirt. I think the horse should get a good trip here, and I think this horse could win also, and give Christophe his 8th or 9th win in this race. We'll use this horse on the pick 4 ticket. But to recap my selection for the 8th from Gulfstream, it's the Orchid Stakes. Let's take the 6-horse personal best. Give kudos to the 5-horse Amazing Grace. 6-5-2-3 Super, 6-5 in your multi-race. The 9th race from Gulfstream Park, beginning of the Rainbow Six, it is Sir Shackleton Stakes. It's going for a purse of $100,000, race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 9 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the main track, My top selection, going to take the 2-horse My Prankster. Let's go 2-8-4-1 in the superfecta. 2-8-4-1 super. Top selection of 2-horse My Prankster. This 4-year-old colt by Into the Mischief. Tom Pletcher trains. Luis Saez gets the mount. Horse hasn't been seen since late July. That came at Saratoga. 6.5 furlongs in the Grade 2 Amsterdam. And the horse finished 5th by 8.5 lengths that day. And he just never really got going. He was a little bit wide. He moved a little bit late, but it wasn't anything spectacular or to call home about. Refreshing here with a strong pace in front of him. Back to Gulfstream where he's run his best races off his speed figures times. He's going to be in a better spot to win. 2 back in the Maxfield at Churchill. 7 furlongs 3rd July. He finished second by a half length, and he sat back early. He was a little bit wide, but he was gaining that day. A very good race for him after all is said and done, coming home with an 87 buyer. And then prior to that, Derby Day and the Pat Day Mile at Churchill, 1 mile there. He finished 3rd by 3 3/4 lengths. Jack Christopher freaked that day. This horse is just wide. He moved a little bit late, but he wasn't catching Jack Christopher there. And then before that, opening day, Keelan on a wet fast but harrow going, 7 furlongs in Lafayette. He finished 4th by 5 1/4 lengths that day. And again, he moved a little bit that day, but as the favorite, he should have did a lot better. But like I said, he likes running here at Gulfstream. He won here as a 2-year-old very nicely in an allowance race. Came back to win the Swale last year very nicely by a half length, earning a 90 buyer over the course and distance. Training well Palm Beach. Workout pounds have been getting very well as of recently. Watch out for this horse late. A horse that wouldn't surprise me here would be the 8-horse Collaborate for Javier Castellano and Jose D'Angelo. Most recently, they ran the horse in a start allowance race here over the 6th and the 16th of March, and the horse won by a half length, coming from a tracking position. He did lug in a little bit, but he took off clear, coming home with a 95 buyer, which I think is very nicely done. Before that, Appleton 62 here at Gulfstream over the 7. He finished third by 4 3/4 lengths, and again, he couldn't get the good turn of foot, but he ran decently, and then claiming 35,000, they brought him all the way down to give him a confidence builder, and he won by 2 1/4 lengths. Again, not the best beginnings, a little bit wide, but he got the job done. He placed in this race last year where he ran decently. Coming back here today off some decent buyer numbers as of recently, I'm going to give this horse a shot on the ticket. But to recap my selections for the 9th race from Gulfstream, it is the Sir Shackleton. And why do they have a race named after Sir Shackleton? I don't think he was the best horse in the world, but that's a head scratcher. But my top selection here is the Sir Shackleton. I'm going to take the 2-horse My Prankster. Give kudos to the 8-horse Collaborate. 2-8-4-1 Super. Let's go 2-8 in your multi-race. The 10th race, beginning of the late pick 5. That's $1 million guarantee. The 10th race, it is the Sand Spring Stakes. It's going for a $150,000 purse. Race for fillies, mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. Field of 10 horses going 1,700 meters or a mile 16th on the turf course. The rails are up at 56 feet, so it's that outer portion of the turf course. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 6 horse, Market's Nation. Pardon me, I can't speak. I'm going to go 6914 in the superfecta, 6914 super. Top selection, the 6-horse Market Segmentation. There we go. This 4-year-old filly by American Pharaoh. Chad Brown trains one. Irad Jr. gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the 4th of February at Tampa, mile 16th in the Grade 3 Endeavor, and the horse finished third by a length that day. He kind of stalked all the way around the race course, or dueled a little bit around the race course. They were going quite fast. He had the lead. He got caught late. He just couldn't keep up, but he ran his heart out there. He's coming back to this turf course where I think forwardly pace is decent. Chad Brown, has had a little bit of a light meeting, but, I think he could get another victory with this horse. 2 back, he ran opposite 25 here at Gulfstream on New Year's Eve of the mile 16th, and he won by 3 1/4 lengths that day. He was a little bit wide. He sat back early. He really closed up well, and he got the job done. A very good race off the 3-month refreshing. 30th of September was the race before at Aqueduct, mile 16th allowance race, 105,000, and he finished second by a length that day. A little bit wide. He had the lead. He got caught late, but, he ran his heart out again, coming home with the 91 buyer. First start in nearly 9 months. 9 months prior, he ran the 4th of December at Aqueduct on the lawn, a mile 16th in the main special weight. Went by 2 1/4 lengths, coming from nowhere. I thought it was a very good debut. It takes him a little bit of time to get to the races, but when he does, he runs these good races. Coming here today, 2-1, stepping up in class. I'm going to give him a shot. Wouldn't surprise me if the 9-horse Purse of Benseria gets the job done. God, I can't speak, pardon me. But most recently, the Cardinal Churchill, the mile and 8th, the horse finished second by 1 3/4 lengths that day. Sat back early. The turn of foot late wasn't bad at all, coming home with a 94 buyer. And then before that, an allowance race at Keeneland over the mile 16th, he finished 4th by 1 3/4 lengths. A very troubled trip for this horse. This horse is a bit of a deep closer, should like the turf course here today. He's training well. Off the bench, I'm going to give this horse a shot on the ticket also. But to recap my selection for the 10th from Gulfstream, it is the Sand Springs. Let's take the 6-horse, Market whatever. I'm gonna go 6914 super, 69 in your multi-race. So let me take a little break now to get some water and learn how to speak English. Then we're gonna head over to race number 11 now from Gulfstream. The 11th race from Gulfstream, it is the Sanibel Island Stakes. It's going for a $100,000 purse. Races for 3-year-old fillies here. We have a field of, 10 horses entered to go the distance of ground of 1,500 meters or 7 1/2 furlongs on the Gulfstream Park turf course. It's on the inner portion of the turf course, the 0-foot rail setting. So just keep that in mind. Top selection, I'm going to go with the 5-horse Breath Away. 5-9-1-2 for me in the superfecta. 5-9-1-2 super. Top selection, the 5-horse Breath Away. 3-year-old filly by Bated Breath. Christophe Clement trains. Jose Ortiz gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the 12th of February at Gulfstream. Mile 70 off the turf on the Tapeta, an up 75 claimer, and the horse finished second by a nose that day. He had a little bit of a tough trip going to the clubhouse turn from Y Postra. a little bit wide. He was drifting that day. It wasn't a recipe for success, but he got around the race course well. Coming here with a mid-pack poster, which I think he should like, sitting a little closer, hopefully, like the horse did in the debut. I think the horse could go all the way to run a good race. On debut, the horse ran 2 back in the main special weight here at Gulfstream, 7.5 furlongs, 8th of January, and he won by a half a length that day. Horrible beginning that day, but he got good position going into the turn from the wide post row. When he had the turn of foot at the top lane, he took off clear, coming home with a 63 buyer. After all is said and done, I thought he showed very good potential in the debut victory. He's training well at the Clermont winter base at Payson. Most recent workout, 5/8 on the turf course, 102 flat, 10th best workout of 18, and a 103 for 5 furlongs on the 18th of March, the 11th best workout of 14. Refreshing here, I'm going to give this horse a shot on the ticket. I think the 9 horse and Shirley is your second likeliest winner. 3 Colt by Justified. Top Pletcher trains. Iritis Jr. gets the mount. First time on turf, but the dam side has a lot of turf pedigree with the Frankel there, and going through form. But most recently ran the horse in the spin weight, Saratoga, 7 furlongs on the 4th of September, where the horse finished 8th by 14 3/4 lengths that day. He was wide and just had nothing. Absolutely nothing. Never really showing up. On the debut at Ellis on the mud, going 5, I thought he ran decently. He won by a half a length. He stalked, he got the lead, and he got the job done. Hopefully seeing a little bit closer here today. I think he can get the job done. At 6-1, he's your wise guy horse. He's either going to win by a mile or finish way out of it. I'll use him on the ticket as that insurance play. And also talking about the one horse, Mrs. Astor. She's the kind of horse I want to keep an eye on as the season goes on, because she looks like a kind of horse that could do well in like the Belmont Oaks or something like that. Or Saratoga Oaks. Most recently ran the horse in day after Pegasus here at Gulfstream, mile 16th in the main special weight on the lawn, winning by 1/4 lengths from mid-pack. A little bit wide, but this horse really took off clear. It was a very exciting run for this horse. Prior to that, in mid-December here at Gulfstream, 1 mile on the lawn in a main special weight. She finished 3rd by 3/4 length that day. Had a little bit of a trouble trip around the far turn, but was gaining late. After 3 races, definitely been on the improve. Training well in the Tapeta and turf locally. I'll give this horse a shot at 7-2. Also on the ticket, and the slate pick 4th begins with this race. So to recap my selection for the 11th from Gulfstream, it is the Sanibel Island. We're going to take the 5 horse Breath Away as a top selection. 5-9-1-2 Super, 5-9-1 in your multi-race. To the 12th race, feature race for the 3-year-old fillies on the program. The 12th race, it is the Gulfstream Park Oaks. It's a Grade 2 event going for a $250,000 purse. Races for 3-year-old fillies. Field of 8 horses going 1,700 meters or a mile 16th on the Gulfstream Park main track. 16th pole finish, so just keep that in mind. Top selection here, I'm going to go with the 4 horse Affirmative Lady. Let's go 4-5-6-2 in the superfecta. 4-5-6-2 super, top selection of 4 horse Affirmative Lady, 3-year-old filly by Arrogate. Grand Motion trains, Luis Saez gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came 26th February at Gulfstream, mile 16th in the main special weight. You know, she's made her 5th start. She was running in stakes quality horses, stakes races before that, but it took her a while to break the main, but she finally did it there, winning by 2 1/4 lengths. From the rails, she sat back early, a little bit of a steady trip into the turn and a little bit wide, but she took off clear late. A good confidence builder, getting blinkers on today. Coming back to a mile 16th at Gulfstream, drawn well, could have some forwardly pace. I think this horse could finally find the winner's circle again. You know, when it takes horses a few times to find the winner's circle, when they finally do, the wins start to come up a lot quicker after that. 2 back, the horse ran the Sand at Aqueduct on a good main track, a mile and 8th, 14th of January. The horse finished 3rd by 7 lengths that day. It was early January. Main track at Aqueduct could be very tiring at times, and I thought it was tiring for this horse. This horse was just wide throughout and never really got going. Just wasn't her day to win. Prior to that, on the slop in the Demoiselle, she ran a good race behind Julia Shining that day. She finished 2nd by a nose. She stalked. She had the lead. She got caught late, but she didn't go down without a fight. I thought it was a good effort there. And then a Keeneland on the 4th of November, 7 furlongs in the main special weight. She finished 4th by length. She sat back early, stupidly wide, but again, she was gaining well. I think she's a versatile horse. She could set the pace or come from behind. At 10-1, I'm going to use her on the ticket. Watch out for the 5 horse here, Miracle, for Todd Pletcher and Iritis Jr., 3-year-old filly by Mendelssohn. Most recently, the Rachel Alexandra at Gulfstream, at Fairgrounds, mile 16th in mid-February. The horse finished 2nd by 3/4 length and was setting the pace that day. She got caught by Pretty Mischievous that day, but she didn't go down without a fight. She showed potential first off the bench. Second off, back around 2 turns again for the second time. I think the horse could really run a good race. Before that, was running against Statebreds here in New York. Ran a very good place in the Maida Mist, and the Joe Jimma, a very good place where I thought she wanted a little bit more ground there. And in the Seeking the Ante on the slop, she finished 3rd by 5 3/4 lengths. Out of all the races in New York, that was probably the worst, but it wasn't so bad. I thought she was just a little bit too wide that day over her trip. She probably wasn't appreciating. She probably wants to go a mile and eighth, a mile and a quarter. Mile 16 she could definitely get. At 5 to 2 we'll use her. And also, watch out for the other stablemate here, Atomically, the 6 horse for Tom Pletcher. You know, most recent, the Forward Gouge over the 7. She finished third by 1/4 lengths. Not the best beginnings, a little bit wide. Probably needed the race there. Second off the bench, back to a mile 16th, where she won over this trip from a stupidly wide poster in October. I think she has another strong chance of winning. 7 to 2, we'll use her in that late pick 4. But to recap my selection for the 12th from Gulfstream, it's the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Let's take the 4 horse Affirmative Lady. Give kudos to the 5 horse Miracle and the 6 horse Atomically. 4, 5, 6, 2 Super. 4, 5, 6 in your multi-race. The 13th race now from Gulfstream here on this marathon program. It is the Appleton Stakes. It's going for a $150,000 purse. Races for 4-year-olds and upwards. Field of 12 horses entered to go 1,600 meters or a mile on the turf course. It's the inner portion of the turf course. My top selection, I'm going to take the 6 horse Steady On. 6, 3, 12, 5 for me in the superfecta. 6, 3, 12, 5 super. Top selection is 6 horse Steady On. This 4-year-old colt by Pioneer of the Nile. Tom Pletcher trains. Ira Ortiz gets the mount. Horse's most recent outing gave him the Grade 3 Canadian turf here at Gulfstream, 4th of March over the mile 16th, and the horse finished second by a half length. He was drawn wide, which cost him that day. He was wide throughout from tracking position. He had the lead. He got caught by stablemate Emmanuel late. What can you do? He didn't go down. He fought that day, but he just couldn't keep up. He has a better poster here today for the first time in 5 starts, basically. He should be forwardly paced, which I think should be good, and I think he'd get the job done. 2 back around the 20th of January here at Gulfstream, mile 70 in a handicap, and he finished 4th by 1 3/4 lengths. He was very wide throughout, never had the good turn of foot. Keep in mind, Willie Dagenast, who won that day, was a next start winner last week in the Kentucky Cup Classic, very impressively. This horse, just needed the race there, and also was just drawn wide. And then before that, 26th of December at Gulfstream, mile 16th in Tropical Derby. The horse finished second by a nose that day. Again, a little bit wide. He was drifting, which cost him. He got nailed at the wire. What can you do? And then before then, the Geoponte at Aqueduct over the mile 16th on lawn. He finished second by a half a length that day. Horrible beginning, stupidly wide. Wasn't a recipe for success there. But broke the main at Aqueduct in early September very nicely on the front end all throughout, setting pedestrian fractions. Came back to win a race from a tracking position after that in October at Aqueduct quite nicely with a 95 buyer. He runs these good 95 buyers. That definitely can win here again today. At 3 to 1, I'm going to use him. I think you also have to use the 3 horse here, who is Gray's Fable for Brian Lynch and Joel Rosario. Most recently in Optional 75 here on the 10th of February over the mile. He finished second by a half a length that day, and he stalked that day. He really closed up well late and wasn't, needed something more that day, but he ran his heart out there. Prior to that, in the Keeneland Turf Mile at Keeneland, 1 mile in October, he finished 10th by 8 3/4 lengths that day, and had a very troubled traffic trip, which cost him there. And then the Mint Millions at Kentucky Downs, he finished 5th. Not the best beginnings. I'm not sure if he really liked Kentucky Downs that afternoon. And then before then, the Mint Millions prep race at Ellis over the mile. He won by a neck, coming from the horrible post draw and horrible break that day. He really put on a show late. He likes the green stuff. He's training well. Watch out for this horse at 10 to 1 in this very wide open race. And also watch out for the 12 horse Dream of Tomorrow for Javier Castellano. Most recently ran here in the at Tampa, mid-December over the mile 16th and Optional 100, where he won by 2 3/4 lengths that day. Came home with a 98 buyer from a tracking trip. I thought he went away clear. Prior to that, in November at Aqueduct, mile 8th and Optional 80, he finished third by 3 1/4 lengths that day. Tone, who won that day, went on to win great races after that. Next star winner, and we all know what he did. This horse just, stalked that day. He needs something more, but he ran his heart out there. And then before that, at Aqueduct, 1 mile in Optional 80, he finished 7th by 5 lengths over the mile. First off the bench, he needed the race. It's his first time back to stakes quality horses since the Bernard Baruch of 2021. But he always runs these good races in the high 80s, low 90s. He'll have to step up a lot today, but I think he has a good chance of winning with his running style in this race. At 15 to 1, I'll use him as an upset play in the pick 4. But to recap my selection for the 13th from Gulfstream, it is the Appleton. Let's take the 6 horse Steady On. Give kudos to the 3 horse Gray's Fable and the 12 horse Dream of Tomorrow. 6, 3, 12, 5 super. 6, 3, 12 in your multi-race. The featured 14th race now from Gulfstream, the finale, the nightcap on the card. It is the Florida Derby. It's a Grade 1 event going for $1 million purse. Races for 3-year-olds here. A dozen 3-year-olds are going to the post, taking a trip around the Gulfstream Park main track, which is 1,800 meters in circumference, or one lap around, which is a mile and an eighth on that dirt course. My top selection, I love the 11-horse Forte. I think he's the overachiever of the 3-year-old group this season, and I think he has a very strong chance of winning the Kentucky Derby. If I had to give you a choice for Kentucky Derby winner right now, probably be Forte. I'm going to go 11-2-9-10 in the superfecta. 11-2-9-10 super. Top selection 11-horse Forte. 3-year colt by Violence. Todd Pletcher trains this one. Ira Ortiz Jr. gets the mount, but he's breaking from the wicked 11 hole or wide poster going a mile and eighth here at Gulfstream on the dirt. We all remember Big Brown break from post 12 in 2008 and basically winning for fun, but these wide posters going a mile and eighth at Gulfstream are not good at all with that quick run to the turn. If he wins today, he's going to show very good potential, but just looking over his bio, he's much the best on paper. Most recent, the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream, mile 16th, 4th of March, seasonal reappearance. He won by 4 1/4 lengths that day. Not the best beginnings, a little bit wide, but he took off clear late. I thought he showed good potential there. Prior to that, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Keeneland over the mile 16th, he won by 1 1/2 lengths that day. And again, he sat back early, he took off wide late, and he went away with it with a short stretch for the way he had the run in and basically the gallop out. He really put on a show. It looked like he had a lot left in the tank that day. That was a very good 100 buyer performance. And then prior to that, in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland over the mile 16th, he won by a neck. He had to be used a lot that day to get a good position closing up that day, but he got the job done. And then prior to that, on the slop at Saratoga on closing day in the hopeful, winning by 3, coming from the back of the pack, a horrible beginning, but he really coaxed home clear late. His only defeat came in the Sanford at Saratoga with 6 furlongs, where he finished 4th by 5 1/4 lengths that day. He was very wide and just a little bit flat that day. Mo Strike really had the better race. And then at the end of May at Belmont, 5 furlongs in maiden special weight. He won by 7 3/4 lengths, and from a tracking position, he probably could have won around another 5 furlongs going to the mile and a quarter and still won that easily. He's training well Palm Beach. Coming here today, he's going to have to overcome the wicked, 11 hole, but, he looks much the best on paper. A small upset here of, I can understand if you're going to single him in the multi-race, but a small upset. I kept going back to the 2-horse West Coast Cowboy. He's going to be my exact to play. Sonny Leone's on this one for Safi Joseph. I didn't think he ran half bad in the Holy Bowl Stakes, where he just needed something more late. I thought he wanted a little bit of a long trip off the bench, probably need the race, but he had a decent third there, 58-1. Prior to that, here in late November over the mile and optional 75 off the bench, he finished 4th by 4 1/4 lengths, a little bit wide, but again, he looked like he wanted more. And then on debut on the slop here going a mile, he won by a neck on the front end all throughout, came home decently. He's going to have to jump up 30 buyer points to beat a Forte, but he has his last race, he showed some potential, but Forte looks very, very hard to beat. Going back to the 9-hour cycle of mischief, he used my exactas and supers here. In the Fountain of Youth, he set the pace, he kind of hit the wall late. He ran a decent third there. Before then, the Holy Bull, he was just a little bit too wide, which cost him. And then he won here going a mile in January very, very nicely. He looks like the kind of horse as the season goes on, maybe cut him back in trip. Actually, on paper, I probably would have ran him next Friday in the Lafayette at Keeneland and went into the Pat Day Mile into the Woody Stevens. But coming here at a mile and eight, they're taking the chance. He's a horse to use underneath. I don't think he's going to win because he'll have to. I just don't think he's going to get the mile and eighth trip. His great Harlan's Holiday won the race quite a few years ago, but I just think 7 furlongs or 1-turn mile is probably his better trip here. I have Fort Bragg on the ticket also. I didn't like his race at Santa Anita and San Felipe, where he basically wanted to go Juan Hernandez and let him go, which I think cost him. Probably would have ran him last week at Sunland, to tell you the truth. I think this is a very tough spot, and the wide poster for him definitely scares me. He's an underneath horse, but to win he'll have to really, really run his grade A race. But like I said, Forte is your very likely winner. Small upset could be the 2-horse West Coast Cowboy, but it's going to be an exciting Florida Derby here. So to recap my selection for the 14th from Gulfstream, it's the grade $1 million Florida Derby. We're going to take the 11-horse Forte, 11-2-9-10 super. We'll go we're going to play 2 pick 4 tickets. We're going to single Forte in one ticket, and we'll go 11-2 in the other one to get some extra coverage here. But Forte, like I said, if I had to give you a Derby pick right now, it would probably be Forte because he's been the overachiever of this group. So with that being said, good luck to all. Please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world. Join me next Friday for the opening day from Keeneland, and also next Saturday, another smorgasbord or buffet of racing for Derby prep races here in New York at the Wood Memorial. Join me for that. The Bluegrass and Keeneland, you have the Santa Anita Derby. It's going to be an exciting weekend of racing next weekend, so I hope you join me for that. So with that being said, good luck everybody, and let's make some money today.